Sa World Remit, naiintindihan namin ang iyong paglalakbay. Na minsan, kailangan lumayo upang makamit ang tagumpay. With ways to save more, when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.
Okay, nako, magandang Happy Tuesday ho sa yung lahat. No? Welcome mo sa ating program. Ako po si SONNY LARAGAN. And we're coming to you live on a Tuesday night. Mula ho sa ating studios, main studios ho dito sa London. Magandang gabi ho. Sana'y nasa mabuti ho kayong kalagayan. Ayan. Medyo this morning, no, dito sa Southwest London napakalakas ho ng hangin, no? Pero hindi naman gano'ng kalamig, no? 18 degrees is kind of mild, no, at this time of the year, no? Pero ang lakas ng hangin. Anyway, good evening ho sa ating mga kababayan sa apat na sulok. Oh, should I be talking in English? We have a Taglish English. All right, we have a very special guest that our dear attorney DANNA, no, is going to be having with us tonight. Pero yan, abang lang kayo, no? So tonight it's going to be informative dahil kung kayo ho ay merong ano ba tong ating pwede pag-uusapan natin, i-discuss ni attorney. Okay, so welcome mo sa ating mga kababayan sa apat na sulok ho ng United Kingdom, sa apat na sulok ho ng Europa na nakikinood sa atin, sa apat na sulok ho ng mundo kung saan man ho kayo naroroon na nanonood ho at sumasama ho sa amin. So tuloy kayo, kabayan. Okay, well, pakikilala ko na yung Happy Tuesday. She's the person who makes our Tuesdays happy. You know, she's the reason why we are all together on a Tuesday night, no, for this interaction that we have. Yung ating social virtual bubble family and so on and so forth, no. Mga kaibigan, ang managing partner po ng Deo Volente Solicitors, ang pinakamamahal natin, mahal ninyo, mahal ko rin. Siyempre, mahal nating lahat. The Brains and Beauty, mga kaibigan, si Attorney DANNA Quinto ng DV Solicitors. Attorney, good evening.
Magandang gabi, Mr. LARAGAN and everyone na nanunood. Tuloy po kayo, sabi nga namin. Welcome to Filipino TV Europe Legal Advice Corner, and special mention kay Direk Pao for always arranging our setup every Tuesday. We've got a special guest today. Dala ko mula sa opisina, so quite excited to introduce everyone later on. But first of all, I hope everyone is having a good week. Medyo malamig-lamig. Ewan ko dyan sa inyo, pero malamig na po dito sa amin. Dito sa Bedford, it's starting to get darker early. It's a bit cold. It's definitely at least
it's now here,
raincoat weather. Parati nang umuulan
At saka
so I
autumn
don't know, what happened na like?
Autumn na talaga, attorney, because the leaves are now falling, no, di ba? The leaves are golden brown, yellowish, ganyan, di ba?
Beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful. Autumn is actually beautiful. But of course, when you talk of autumn, you also talk of the weather dipping. You know, but today, surprisingly, yeah, you're right, you're correct. Probably in your area in Bedford, it's kind of cold, no? Medyo coldy.
Yeah.
Pero here in our place, I was surprised because I was asking Siri, no, Siri, what's the weather today? It's 18 degrees. Wow, 18 really? So I couldn't believe my ears.
Ngayon it's warm, yeah. It's in the morning, malamig. Ngayon it's warm.
Ngayon warm. Okay.
Ngayon it's not too bad. Nung pag umaga, pagising mo talagang, nag-dip nga yung temperatura, and then it goes into this unusual parang nagpe-pendulum, minsan malamig, minsan may araw, minsan umuulan. Welcome to England.
Para ano yan, parang prices ng mga ano yan sa stock market, they go up and down, attorney, no? Yung mga
Up and
weather
down,
din,
yeah.
up
Welcome
and
to
down, up
England.
and down, no? Oo. Teka muna, how was your week naman? How was it? Because, syempre, nakikimusta tayo. Siyempre, every Tuesday, kasama natin yung mga babae natin. But after that, may another mga 6-7 days na medyo hindi tayo nakikita. So how was your week? How was your weekend, by the way?
It's quite busy yung ano namin the week before because we had I'm sure because without breaking confidentiality we had a big mediation last Friday, so it means na yung week, it means na wala kami all day sa sa desk namin, and cases were moved on, or work were some of the to-do list ng mga items na moved on Monday. So it's a better day today playing catch up, but we're good. We're much more on top of things. This guest co-host is a team member of mine, and then she will tell you kung ano yung isa sa mga ginagawa namin, one of the case area that people would say mas madami ngayon dahil sa COVID, dahil sa pandemic. The topic at the moment, you can see over the weekend yung cases ng COVID tumaas na naman. I think it's in 40,000.
Really? Wow.
Ang positive cases. Hindi lang natin nararamdaman because the symptoms are less serious because of the vaccination. That's what they are saying. But we are facing potentially a hard winter. And sometimes, pag overburden ang ating sistema, ang ating NHS system, yung mga ibang areas ng NHS, baka hindi na mapagtuunan ng mas maraming ng pansin. And that's the reason, sabi nila, na during the pandemic, mas dumami ang clinical negligence claims, misdiagnosis, delayed diagnosis, and so on and so forth. Hence, dinala ko ang isa sa mga team member ko na may experience.
Pakita natin yung topic muna because we're going to go with the greetings and before we call in our very special guest for tonight. So tonight, ayan, yung mga clinical negligence claim, that's going to be what we're going to be talking about tonight. Our attorney and our very special guest, one of your staff, at Deo Valente Solicitors, no?
Yes, exactly.
Good. But isn't that quite alarming now? Although you might say that it's kind of mild because most of us have already been doubly vaccinated, or the vaccination has been very extensive, pretty extensive, and it's going down now to mga 12 years old yata and lower yata. I don't know, no?
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
But you said it's gone up. Was that what you said, attorney?
Yeah, I think 43,000 is a pretty high figure. Sabi nila na, comparatively, it's very high. It's 5 figures. It's solid 5 figures. And hindi ko po alam dahil hindi rin ako mula sa disiplina ng medisina. But I think everyone's a bit, concerned dahil ito nga sa amin madaming cold flu, alam naman na hindi naman positive pero ito talaga yung we talked about the weather. The weather is a bit temperamental, parang stocks, so ang daming nagkakaroon ng humahatching, nagkakaroon ng trangkaso. Idagdag mo pa siguro dyan yung COVID. It's concerning then kung ano yung last week I think a few of our team members, and you can hear it everywhere, may not feeling well, not 100%. Classic pag season change, yun ang dito pag nag-change yung season, a lot of people do catch the common cold. So pag gano'n, immunocompromised ka na, tapos meron pang COVID na paikot-ikot sa natin, it does make you think na talagang antabay muna. Isipin natin, magdadalawang taon na, nakaantabay tayo.
Pero kompleto ba kayo pumapasok, attorney?
Natanggal tayo sa red list. Pero
wala na tayo?
Wala tayo sa green list ng Pilipinas.
Really? Wow.
Nasa number pa rin tayo. So you'd still have to go. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, mga kababayan.
Grabe
Kaya,
naman. Tayo pa,
tinanggal na
sila
natin.
wala na. Tinanggal na natin sila sa red list. Tayo naman,
Yeah.
hindi pa nila tinatanggal sa red list. Amber list ba tayo?
Well, hindi, wala tayo sa red list, pero wala din tayo sa green list.
Nasa amber. Okay, so wala, nasa in
Amber
between
din
tayo, floating
May
tayo.
quarantine pa rin. May
But
quarantine pa rin.
when you were saying that, attorney, that there's this sort of increase of around 40,000 of cases of infection, or parang cases lang, no, na may infection. Nag-worry ako dahil because I'm gonna be flying out at the end of the month, and baka mamaya, alam mo na yung mga last minute changes to the travel advisory.
Yeah, the travel.
Baka,
Where are you
diba,
going?
well, Spain pa rin dahil
Spain
naglilinis.
pa rin. Ganda.
Pero yung kumare natin si Marites Allen, galing ng saan ba to?
Dubai,
Galing
nasa Dubai siya, nasa
Czech
Dubai.
Republic muna.
Czech
Pero prior to
Republic,
that,
okay, yeah.
she came from Greece, and then Czech Republic, and then she went to Dubai, and now
Yeah.
she's flying out to yata she flew, I don't know, hindi ko alam, no, flying out to Italy. Tapos sa
Yes,
puro,
yes. Belated happy birthday, by the way, kay Marites. Di ba?
yes,
Birthday
yes. So,
the other day.
October 8,
October
was
8,
her birthday.
Belated
She was
happy birthday.
treated specially, by Ambassador
Yeah.
Umbra Hainal, because kaibigan natin si Ambassador Hainal, and she was treated like a queen, a princess, o kung anong, yes, special VIP treatment because of our program.
Very
Ito
good.
yung embassy natin, kaibigan mo.
Yes.
She's very, very thankful talaga. So, ingat. Okay,
Yeah,
teka muna.
I know.
Okay, punta na tayo ngayon sa pagbati natin, no? Sino
Ito
unang
na
babati
tayo.
natin? Attorney, sino unang
Hindi ako
babati?
nasuswerte dito sa hulaan na to eh. Oliver
Oo.
Fernandez. Tingnan natin,
Oliver Fernandez. Sige, tingnan natin. Direct, asan ba yung
Tingnan
mga drum
natin.
rolls? Ayan, tingnan natin. Tingnan natin.
Tingnan natin.
Alright!
Ayun talaga!
Si Marian Galicia Paner. Di ba? Bisan, pag kinulaan mo si Marian, ilang weeks yan? Two consecutive, 3 consecutive weeks yata na.
3 weeks si
Ang
Marian.
hinuhulaan mo lagi si Marian. But this time
Yes.
around, it's, oo. Okay,
Oliver
well,
Marian.
Marian,
Hello.
oh.
Bagong profile picture ni Marian. Oh,
ang
well
cute,
done.
no? Ang cute ng photo
Thank
niya,
you.
ni Marian. no?
Magandang gabi daw po, Kuya Sonny and Attorney Dana at sa lahat. Happy Tuesday po. Happy Tuesday, Marian, and congratulations. Ganda ng bagong profile pic. Yun.
Happy Tuesday. Yes,
Yeah.
maganda profile photo mo. Oh, by the way, let me just remind you guys that we are simulcast also on YouTube, no? So you can greet us also on YouTube. And if you want full high definition, talagang kumbaga super high definition na video na napapanood nyo while watching us, talagang crystal clear, you can watch us also on YouTube. So ayan ho, no? YouTube ho. Filipino TV Europe, same, no? Filipino TV Europe on Facebook, and it's also Filipino TV Europe on YouTube. So you can even greet us sa YouTube, no? So doon din siguro sa YouTube, magbibigay din tayo ng sino unang mababati lang. Parang kumbaga first natin. Sino palagay mo? Attorney, sino palagay mo mas
Oliver
silver medalist natin?
Fernandez.
Ayan, Oliver Fernandez. Tingnan natin. Direct, tingnan natin. Oliver Fernandez.
Hindi talaga ako sinuwerte ko yun.
Alright. Okay. Ayan.
Ayan!
Oh.
Yay!
Hello. Yes. Oliver Fernandez.
Isang
Yes.
mapagpalang Martes ng umaga mula po dito sa Pacific Northwest, Attorney Dana, Kuya Sonny, Direct Pao, at sa mga tumatangkilik sa ating programa sa apat na sulok ng mundo. Wow, ang galing na Tagalog.
Mabuhay
yan
ka.
na.
Mabuhay ka. Talagang Tagalog
Oliver.
na Tagalog ka. Nung naalala ko nung bago ako nung araw, no, nasa
Buwan ng wika.
I started out, nagsimula ako, attorney, as an English, gusto ko, newscaster, gusto ko noon English newscaster. Nung mamatay si Ninoy Aquino, nung ililibing na siya, kulang sa reporter ang DZRH. Sister company siya yung DZMB-FM, kung saan ako nagtatrabaho as newscaster, newswriter. May sister station yung DZRH, yung kauna-unahan sa Pilipinas, DZRH, kanya, no?
Yeah.
Kulang silang reporter. Hindi ako sanay ng mga report. Kaya mga Tagalog na kasalukuyan ho namin tinatahak ang kahabaan ng mga ganong kalalim na Tagalog, no? Habang nilalamo ng apoy, kaapat na palapag. Hindi ako, no? Taglish ako eh. But eventually I had to learn, no? And I did. I was able to do yung ganyan Tagalog. Pero nakakatuwa, no? Tumatangkilik. Ayan, lalo sa ating programa sa apat na sulok ng mundo. Oh, grabe. Galing.
Nakakatawa. Ang galing, ang galing.
Mabuhay. Ayan. Oy, nako. Sino ang third placer natin sa palagay mo? Lumabas na.
I'm gonna pretend. Edgar Duay. Super Ed. Magandang gabi, Attorney DQ. And legendary Sonny Laragan. At sa mga taga-subaybay, happy Tuesday DQ. Happy talaga ang Tuesday ko. Ulit bundok, ulit dyan, part 2. Attorney
Diwata. May bago ka na namang ano ngayon.
Ulit.
Oo, from...
Wala, okay na. Hindi na masakit yung katawan ko. Nagbalik na sa normal. Nakapag-stretch na.
Okay na.
Pero ano pa rin, you really feel very light after that. I really enjoy that. So, kung ano kayo, I highly recommended magbundok, pumanik ng bundok. At ang dami na nakikita ha, mga kababayan natin nasa Scotland ngayon. Ingit na ingit ako dun sa mga nasa Scotland. So, it's quite a popular destination sa mga gustong hindi muna mag-travel abroad but want to see the UK or see somewhere else. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. You should go, Mr. Laragan.
Yes. So we'll do it next. Okay. So.
Yung tumatawag. Hello.
Teka muna. May lumalabas sa sound. Direct yan. Sino ba yan? May ginaya siyang ano. Ito Filipino star and legendary. May ginawa pala si Direct. Pakita mo nga. Sige, tingnan natin. Pero naka-ano ka? Hindi ka naka-capture. Ano ka ba? Naka-capture ka ba? Tingnan natin yung capture. Ito, Direk. Ito, attorney. May papakita si Direk sa atin. Simula mo yung simula. Nakita mo ba yun? Yung tayong dalawa?
Bagay na bagay eh.
Ikaw naman. Ikaw naman. Yan. Yan. Kita mo? Galing nito Okay. Mag-check mo na, Direk. Tama na. Baka tayo. Baka mayari tayo sa copyright ng music nila, no? Pero pakita. Ginawa ni Edgar, no? Kita mo, yan. Ayan, no?
Yeah.
Tayong dalawa, no? Para yung buhok ko doon sa walang kamatayang isang photo ko dyan, no? May isa ko photo dyan na walang kamatayan.
Ganda ng photo mo. Ayan si Edgar, tsaka...
Thank you, Edgar, ha? Mabuhay. Galing naman. Galing naman. Saludo kami sa iyo talaga. And then this guy is really, sabi nga ni Neng, talaga, kami, we say it, no? He's a darling, a star, lahat, no? Talagang galing nitong taon to. So, mabuhay. Okay, go. Sige, pasok na natin mabilis yung mga
pasok na natin. Ayan, si Edgar. Yep, tapos na. Emily Rafael. Good evening, Sonny and Attorney DANNA and everyone. Happy Tuesday to all. Si Ma'am Emily, ikot pa rin sa Middle East eh.
Andun siya, nakatira sa Abu Dhabi sa anak yata niya. Sa Mabuhay, no? Napanood na yung expo yata. Dubai ba o sa Abu Dhabi? Sa Dubai yata, di ba? May expo.
Abu Dhabi.
World Expo, yes. Rafa. Yeah. Attorney, sige, basahin natin.
Rafa. Good evening po to everyone, especially to Kuya Sonny Laragan and Attorney Donna Quinto. Good evening, Rafa.
Good evening, Rafa. Mabuhay. Mabuhay.
Mabuhay kayo, Rafa.
Ayan. Sige. Okay. Next, Caroline Hinaralaw.
Caroline, nasan ba? Hindi pa natin mabasa.
Teka muna. Okay.
Ayun, hello to all. Si Ma'am Cora muna. Hello to all, Sir Sonny, Attorney Donna, at sa lahat na tumatangkilik sa programa na productive, maligayang, etc.
Wow.
Productive na maligaya pa, etc. pa. Magandang gabi po, Ma'am Cora Carsol. Ganda
Ma'am Cora, good evening. Napagkamala natin hindi siya na bumate nung huli, no? Pero okay pala, bumabati naman siya. Okay, Ma'am Cora, mabuhay, ha? Ma'am Cora. Caroline Hinaralaw, no?
Caroline, ano ba, terno ba ang tawag dyan? Or ano, hello
Yeah,
po,
terno.
please.
I think terno yata yan. Terno. Terno yata
Terno
sabi ni
yan,
Imelda eh. Yeah.
Imeldific,
Imeldific.
maganda.
Imelda Marcos, no?
Yes, exactly. Hello po, Kuya Sunny. Hello, Attorney Donna QUINTO. Watching from Switzerland. Salamat po sa origrama nyo po. Programa siguro yan.
Okay, sige,
God bless
programa.
God bless you then, Caroline. Ang ganda
God bless
ng
you,
terno
from
mo.
Switzerland. Mabuhay. Mabuhay kayo. Welcome dyan, Caroline. Yan.
Yes,
Ed Abdallah.
and Ed Abdullah watching from Kuwait. Mula naman tayo sa Switzerland, balik tayo sa Kuwait. Ed
Yes.
Abdullah, magandang gabi sa inyo lahat dyan. Ayan.
Oy, okay. Thank you.
Bago
Ed Abdullah,
ata,
no? Si Ed
ako
Abdullah,
nag-change ng profile pic this week.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, sweet Attorney Donna and Pogi, Sir Sonny, and hi everyone from Lizzie Hobbs. Lizzie din, nagpalit ng
good
profile
evening.
picture.
Oo nga. View na lang, no? Photo niya.
Lahat nagpalit
Okay.
ng profile picture eh.
Lahat nagpalit ng photo. Oo. Well, okay. So, ayan muna ating first batch ng mga pagbati, no? And we're gonna have a short break, attorney. And,
Yes.
yeah, medyo, sige, out na muna tayo sa greetings nun, direct, no? Ayan. Medyo out na muna yung greetings natin for, yeah, okay. All right, so we're gonna have a short break. And when we come back, we're gonna have our very special guest tonight. She's one of your staff, no? Sa Deo Volento Solicitors. And you're gonna be introducing her when we come back, attorney, yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Wag ho kayo aalis. Kami po ni Attorney Dana ay magbabalik kasama ating special guest. Wag ho kayong aalis.
Mula doon hanggang ngayon, serbisyong mapagkakatiwalaan, serbisyong maaasahan pagdating sa inyong mga padalang balikbayan boxes. Dito ka na sa Forex Cargo. Sa presyong kayang-kaya ng bulsa, sigurado ka pa sa inyong padala. Forex Cargo. Dahil kailangan makarating. Call 0208-813-7064. O, ano pang inaantay niyo mga kabayan? Tayo na sa Forex Cargo.
%100% all natural, tasty, healthy, versatile, 4 unique flavors. Taste a real sauce. Galettos.
May problema ka ba sa landlord mo? Baka AV ka na ni Kuya. May problema sa mga kapitbahay, sa trabaho. O kaya naman kay Mister o kay Mrs. Away tungkol sa mala, mga may utang, mga aksidente, daing o laban sa ospital or sa NHS. Harassment? O baka naman may stalker ka na gusto mong ireklamo? Punta na sa DV Solicitors para matulungan ka pagdating sa mga litigations at iba pang mga legal concerns. DV Solicitors at 2nd floor, Howard House, St. John Street, Bedford, MK42 0DJ. Tumawag sa 01234-350-244 or 01234-225-188 o kaya naman mag-email sa d.quinto@dvsolicitors.com. Visit our website at www.dvsolicitors.com.
Sa World Remit, naiintindihan namin ang iyong paglalakbay. Na minsan, kailangan lumayo upang makamit ang tagumpay. With ways to save more, when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.
Okay, tuloy-tuloy ho tayo sa ating programa Legal Advice Corner. Siyempre, on a Tuesday night. Magandang gabi ho sa inyo lahat. At welcome ho sa ating programa doon sa mga katutunin lang na sa ngayon, no? Welcome ho. Okay, kasama natin si Attorney DANNA Quinto, siyempre, yung ating pinakamamahal na abogada, no? Dito po sa ating Tuesday get-together. Attorney, good evening once again.
Magandang gabi uli, Mr. Laragan. Nabulol ako doon. Gusto ko mag-Tagalog na-inspire ako kina Oliver Fernandez.
Yes.
Sa mga tumatangkilik na mga taga-subaybay. Ayun.
Saan mang sulok ng mundo? Sa apat na sulok ng mundo.
Pero mag-i-English tayo maya-maya kasi may introduce tayo na guest natin, guest co-host natin. Isip ko ano Tagalog ng guest eh. Ano ba Tagalog ng guest? Bisita natin.
Bisitang, sabi mo, guest co-host natin, oo. Bisitang co-host na rin.
Co-host na lang.
Ano ba programa host sa Tagalog, attorney? Ako po ang inyong host.
Palatuntunan.
Oo.
Diba? Ganun ba?
Host? Palatuntunan. Pero ano tawag doon sa tao?
May mas ano pa.
Di bale na. Mahirap na guest host, co-host natin for tonight. Okay. So
Yes,
let's do the honors
yes.
of introducing our very special guest for tonight.
Exactly. Thank you. So it's a pleasure, absolute pleasure and a delight to introduce this colleague of mine. I've been working with her for more than a year and a bit, and it's been a fantastic working relationship. She's one of the litigation caseworkers here at DV Solicitors. She's very hardworking and a fantastic team member. She has extensive experience in personal injury as well as clinical negligence claims, having worked for both or having had experience, having past experience in defending clinical negligence cases, and now mostly we're on the claimant's side. So it's quite interesting to always get her point of view in terms of merits assessment. She's now currently in the process of getting her SILEX qualification, so you can ask her more about it later because it's quite an interesting topic about how to qualify in the legal industry via the SILEX route. Her topic today is very close to her heart as well as to her specialization, which is clinical negligence. But I will let her talk to you about it more. Without further ado, please welcome Charlene Lord.
Hello, Charlene. Welcome.
Yay.
About clinical negligence today. Now, I think there's a lot of connotations that happen when people hear clinical negligence, but basically where it starts is that you've received medical treatment, and actually from that medical treatment, you've then had an injury, loss, or damage. Now, the injuries can be physical, they can be psychological, and there can also be a financial loss element. Now, in terms of when the case is assessed, the solicitor will need to make sure that there's at least 51% chance of success. So what that means in real terms is that the case is more probable than not to succeed. And there are a whole multitude of things that go into that. And essentially it is based on the medical evidence. And it's looking at what heads of loss there are. And it's very interesting to note that when you basically instruct a medical expert, that evidence that they produce in the report is really the guiding chief as to how successful a case will be. And one of the things I would recommend, if anybody has had a clinical negligence incident, you should really jot down all of the hospitals that you've been to, the GPs that you've attended, so that at a later date we can recall those sorts of records, because it all tallies in to hopefully getting a successful claim. And it's really about rehabilitation in my eyes. I think that it's not so much getting to the end and getting a big financial settlement. It's about helping the client. And what that means is trying to assist their rehabilitation needs. So quite often the solicitor will ask for an interim payment if that can assess and help the needs of the claimant. Now, when it comes to that, you can claim for things like loss of amenity. So what that means is that potentially if you've, say, you were meant to go on holiday, but you actually couldn't as a result of the accident, you would then be able to potentially claim for that. Other financial losses can include things like employment aspects. So if you've not been able to do your job anymore, or if you've had a large period of time where you've not been able to work, those sorts of things can be compensated against as well. Most solicitors will assess whether you can take on the claim, whether they can take on the claim on a CFA agreement. Now, what that means is that it would be a no with no fee agreement. So you wouldn't necessarily have to pay the fees up front. You could, at the end of the claim, there would be at least, well, could be between not more than 25% of the overall damages. And that does often help the client as well, because they don't have to necessarily come forward with any upfront costs at that time. One of the bigger things when it comes to clinical negligence claims is also causation. So we talked about whether the clinician has breached the duty of care. Now, the duty of care, it's about basically the reasonable standard of clinicians and GPs and other medical practitioners. So a GP owes the client or claimant a duty of care, and it's really important that they provide adequate health care to all clinicians, to all patients out there. And yeah, it's really very important that healthcare is to a proper standard of reasonable, competent GPs and clinicians.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's it. Okay. All right.
I would ask Charlene. I think this is one of the most interesting perspectives that, for me, I find very valuable, because Charlene, as I've mentioned before, worked for the other side of the table, the defense side. So she worked on, I think we're all we're allowed to say she's worked with the Medical Defense Shield, and they assisted the medical practitioners in professional issues, and as such, Charlene, from your point of view, from that experience, what would, just general terms without breaking confidentiality, what would be helpful for someone who's looking to make a medical negligence claim, a clinical negligence claim? What's the takeaway from that experience? What can you say, having had experience in defending these cases?
So it's really important, if when you're making a claim, it's all about the evidence. So it is the medical records and the witness statement and what has actually been lost or what injuries the claimant has. So it's really important to document right from the beginning all the events that have gone by. So that's what I would recommend anybody in that situation do. It's right from the beginning, trying to create a timeline of events, and that would help a person to assess the claim. So the solicitor would be able to clearly see, this is where the breach happened, this is the causation, and this is the loss that is a direct consequence of the breach.
You mentioned.
So what?
Sorry, go ahead,
You go
attorney.
ahead. No,
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 you go ahead.
go ahead.
I'm just going to follow up on that. So a diary of some sort would help. That something like
Yeah.
that, Trilene? Diary of some sort, yeah.
Something like that would be really helpful. And also, so for example, if a client or claimant has had trouble doing the day-to-day activities, because that's something that is really assessed when it comes to the final settlement. So if they've had to enlist a relative to help them with the daily chores, that's something that can be calculated in the schedule of loss. And so it's really important to document what, things they can't do anymore or find very, very difficult to do.
Right.
Very good.
Shirley, you mentioned there has to be a 51% of chance of success before
That's right.
most of solicitors like you, for example, would take on the case, right?
Yeah.
How do you find it out? How do you, based on the medical records, the witness statements, if there's a journal or a diary or whatever, how do you assess? How do you say that more or less this is, if it's 50-50, you wouldn't take on it? It has to be at least 51%, right?
Yeah, you're looking for at least 51% because you're looking at the key elements of the claim. So you're looking at, has there been a breach of duty of care? And as you know that a doctor would have a duty of care to the client, to the patient. So that has been established if it's a hospital or the claims against a GP, something like that. So that's number one hurdle. Then you need to establish breach. Now, breach could, be many different things. It can be something like an omission where the doctors forgot to do something, or it could be a procedure that's gone very wrong. It could be a misdiagnosis. So there's your breach. And then you would need the causal link, which is the causation. So you need to prove that that breach actually has created the loss or damage. So that's how you tell whether something's 51% or not. Because if you've only got hurdle 1 or 2, you already know that you can't really have a claim at that point. So the causation is key, I would say.
Right. So negligence, omission, or when they perform something like in a procedure, an operation, or whatever, and something goes wrong. So omission will be, for example, nowadays GP. So we can sue sue GPs, right? Even GPs. Okay.
We could, yeah.
We could. All right. So, for example, there's this. It could be a Filipino, or it could be anybody else. They feel that they've got this lump at the back of their back of their ear, and they feel it might be because it's growing, and they go to the doctor, and the doctor says, "Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing." But later on, for example, it's actually a very serious problem. So you can sue the doctor, right, with that?
Yeah, I mean, you have 3 years from the initial date in which to bring a claim. So, if the doctor failed to refer the patient, to get a screening or a further test done, that would where the claim would begin. So it's the failure to refer somebody for a check.
So, okay, for example, what can your client or prospective client, what can they claim? Loss of income. What else can they claim? Pain in the body, or the agony of feeling without. Is there a monetary equivalent to that? Say, for example, the pain, discomfort. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah, quite often you get, if you've got a catastrophic injury or something like that, or it's been very serious, you could claim for potentially PTSD if that patient is having, reoccurring nightmares and the symptoms of, PTSD or psychological injury is what, we would call it. So, psychological symptoms that can lead to other problems, actually. You could claim for that. Or if you've got a hobby that you like doing and, you would normally, I don't know, go to the gym on a Wednesday afternoon, but you've not been able to do that. that's where a claim could be made for, loss of enjoyment, loss of
Really, loss of enjoyment. Really. So you can put
That is true. That is true.
you can put prices to everything. I mean rates or whatever. If this is the disadvantage or this discomfort, this inconvenience that you've experienced, here is what we can charge. More or less. That's it. Okay. All right.
Do you want to expound a
attorney.
bit further, Shalene, on the quantum side? So Shalene talked about, the first two hurdles. So there's three elements. So there's a third hurdle. The first hurdle is what Shalene said is the breach of duty. The second hurdle is the causation. And the third is what Mr. Laragan was listing earlier, which is the losses, the listing of the losses, the schedule of losses. So we normally have an Excel spreadsheet or a document setting out this. Would you like to expound on how you would do a quantum? We call it a quantum analysis. It sounds like James Bond, but it isn't really.
Quantum.
It's just looking. Quantum by the name is, figures. How do we find figures?
To quantify.
Tell them
From
our
the word
favorite
quantify.
orange book,
Quantum. All
our
right.
favorite precedents and all of that.
All right.
Yeah.
So the
So
quantum
we-
thing
we-
is based on the three things that you mentioned: the breach of duty, causation, and losses. Is that what you were saying, attorney? No.
Yes, because
Yeah,
you
yeah,
mentioned, there's a figure for everything.
Yeah, is there a
So how do
figure
we
for
come up with
everything?
a
Yes.
figure? So how do we come up with a figure?
Yeah. How do you?
So
Exactly.
where do
We're
we get
curious.
this
How do you come
figure?
up? For
Yeah, where do we
example,
get this figure? Shirley,
Where do
would
you
you
get-
like
you-
to tell them where do we get
you
this
don't
figure?
you don't just pluck them from thin air. So there must be like if this is what's
Right.
been experienced,
Oh,
this is
yeah.
the corresponding.
You tell
damage.
them your
Go ahead,
experience,
yes.
Shirley. I will
Shirley, yes.
add my little 2 pence towards the end.
Yeah, so I tend to use the JSB guidelines. So if somebody's had a hand injury,
JSP. What does it stand for? JSP.
JSB, Judicial Studies Board guidelines.
Judicial studies. Okay.
Yeah, and basically you
B as in boy, not P. Boy. Judicial.
B.
It's big. It's big.
Okay. Sure. Go ahead. Yes. Sure.
Yeah, so you would find the typical injury that's happened, and then it would actually give you, whether it's a moderate injury, whether it's a severe injury, and it would tell you the different damages that the claim could be worth based on the guidelines.
You mentioned about CFA agreement. Yeah, they have to sign that. You said it's a no win, no fee. I think. What does CFA stand for? Because CFA agreement.
Yeah, so that's a conditional fee agreement.
Conditional fee agreement. Okay, conditional fee agreement. All right. So no win, no win, no fee. Right? Is that? And
That's
it
it,
shouldn't
yeah.
be. And lawyers, solicitors, shouldn't get more than 25% of the awarded whatever it is. Right?
Yeah. So there's like a cap on. the
There's a
overall-
cap. All right, there's a cap.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Okay. All right. That's quite interesting. So if so people if they have this criminal medical negligence, for example, all they have to do, what do they have to do first? They have to consult a lawyer, solicitors like you,
Yeah.
right, to find out if they can claim or not. Can you tell them straight away that you couldn't claim because these are the reasons why? What can they not claim? The case is not strong. The medical records are not. It doesn't say that they've really incurred a damage, or what are somebody felt that they were medically disadvantaged or medically by a doctor, a medical practitioner. Would that be including also nurses, or just simply doctors
Yeah.
and
It could-
probably surgeons, or or
Yeah, you would sue the trust normally.
other trust?
Yeah, the actual trust that the doctor or nurse had worked for. That's where who you would bring the claim against.
What are the usual cases wherein people would claim on for operations gone wrong? Or what are the most common ones that you've encountered? So you've been doing this for over a year and a bit, or more than
More than that, yeah.
More than that.
More than
Okay,
that.
all right.
Yeah, more than that. We've been colleagues for a year and a bit, but we've both been in the industry for more than that.
Okay. What are some of the cases? Could you give us some examples? To more or less, so people can relate to it, or we could really, be. I'm not specific with this. So, give us examples. For example.
So you could have a case where a procedure has gone wrong, but it wasn't evident right at the beginning that it's gone wrong. So, things started to happen with the procedure once the patient has come home. So that could be one. You could have misdiagnosis of, say, cancer or another illness. You could have wrong medical prescription. That could be one. So the patient was given the incorrect, treatment.
Are there cases, for example, when misdiagnosis, the person died, can the relatives, children, spouse, or whoever, can they claim? Can they have this medical negligence things as well?
So
can they initiate? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Under the Fatal Accidents Act, a dependent can bring a claim. So the spouse could bring a claim for their deceased partner.
You call it the Fatal Accident Act?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Wow. That's cute.
It's funny we use a different act for
Fatal Accident Act.
It's just the door, yeah. It's
Oh,
just the door
okay.
because mostly in any event, you don't, that's something that you can use. But also in any event, the estate of the deceased would have what we call a locus standi, which is a Latin word, which means just the right to sue and claim for that estate. So whoever's the executor of that estate can take over any litigation or prospective litigation of that person who died. So you are suing, if you're the executor, you're going to be the person who's managing the claim on behalf of the potential beneficiaries. So the straightforward answer is yes. So that's there's an option in there.
Locus standi, right?
Locus standi. It's a very
we have a lot of technical terms. There's a CFA.
Yeah, a lot of
right?
technical terms.
JSB.
We will call. Do you want to tell them, Charlene, about the test? So I love Charlene's metaphor. Hurdle one. So parang ano to eh. Sorry, Charlene. It's like, what do you call that in track running? You get the hurdles. You get the obstacle run by on. That one. So you go hurdle one, which is breach of duty. Charlene, do you want to tell them about the name of the test? This is a long-standing test. I don't know, I think it's pre-war test, 1940s pa yung case na to. You want to tell them about the Bolam test, Charlene? What is the Bolam test? What is the test when we try to figure out if a person is indeed liable?
Is that a person, Bolam? So he became the
Bolam
guy?
is a case.
Bolam
is a case, yeah.
Name of a person as well?
I think it's a name of person.
Precedent.
The case, yeah, it's the name of the
Bolam
person.
case, all right, Bolam case. So what about a Bolam case, Charlene? Yes.
So it's based on the reasonable standard of doctors. So if the doctor has breached the reasonable standard of competent doctors, and then if that can be proven, then that is the breach, basically.
All right. There has been a breach of the competitiveness, the competency of the doctor.
A reasonable, so the magic word there is reasonable skill and care that a doctor of the same industry of such competency would say, yes, that is a reasonable stepwise process, that is my reasonable step. So the question normally that we have in cases is, did that doctor take the right step? did that nurse take the right step? Should they have taken your case, Mr. LARAGAN, presented with a lump at the back? It's actually very, very familiar. I've read something on the news earlier about a law student being misdiagnosed, or the diagnosis was missed, and he ended up dying, I think, within 18 months, because exactly as what you said, presented with this set of symptoms, what is the next step? What would a reasonable doctor of reasonable competency would have done? And that question will not be answered by lawyers. It will be answered by a reasonable doctor. And that's the reason why Charlene has said from the start that cases will be pretty much determined by expert evidence. So we would have an expert look at the medical records, and we'll look at the timeline. We like doing timelines. We have that on Facebook. We have that on, on TV series. We see that chronology. When you see on criminal series that there's a timeline. The same. If you're a visual person, you develop the events. You look at the events in a certain case. And you ask a doctor, pretty much ask the doctor, did this doctor follow what a reasonable, competent doctor with that skill set would have done? Is that the correct stepwise process? If the doctor said no in your particular case, they said, do you know what, at that point, he should have referred that to an oncologist. And if it was referred to an oncologist, we would have saved this person. Then you have a clinical negligence claim. And that's pretty much what Charlene said by hurdle 1, breach of duty. Doctor said that no, he did not. That was the event. That was the point in time where somebody made a mistake in a judgment call. And then the causation point, wherein the doctor said, actually, that is the only reason why we did not get to save this person. And then at that point, you have your third hurdle, which is to look at the losses. So that's it's very hard when you ask Mr. LARAGAN and you say, well, how do you figure out if it's 51% or not? So part of it is, looking at the medical records. Sometimes we can see clearly if it isn't. That's really how we filter the case. We have to be we have to be frank and honest when there's no case, because it's only right for that potential claimant to hear it out. When you can see that clearly, on the evidence of it, that that you can't prove this and that, then you have. If we believe instinctively that there's a chance, we always say, well, we will have to ask an expert because of Bolam test, because of this particular case. So we're going to have to lay out the events, the chronology, and the timeline of the case. We're going to have to ask an expert in that field. In your case, we're going to have to ask a GP or an oncologist to tell us if this person has made the right judgment call at the right time. He doesn't have to do the gold standard of the work. That is the interesting thing about Bolam, the Bolam criteria. You don't have to be the best doctor of that industry. You just have to be the reasonably skilled doctor of that industry that you would follow. And sometimes they have, I think they call it NICE guidelines, NICE. They have this stepwise process. I think medical practitioners would be quite familiar with that wording. It's stepwise process. This is what the protocol says. This is what WHO says that we should do. This is what the NHS protocol says that we should do, because a reasonably skilled doctor has set out the guidelines somewhere. If someone has departed from that reasonable skill, that guidelines for reasonable skill in care, then they are negligent. Then that's how you prove that somebody should have done something else, and if they have done if they have made a different judgment call, it would have altered. It would have given you a different outcome, a much different, a favorable outcome. You would have lived, or you would not have lost your leg, or in one of my cases, he lost his eye. So that's a sample of a clinical negligence claim.
Okay, well, right. Shirley, well, guide us through the process. How does it, from start to finish? So, how is it? Somebody approaches you, for example, and they felt that there was this medical negligence. Do you have just by phone? Do you give them the good news or the bad news? Hey, we can't represent you, or we can't work on your case because the case is not strong enough, to merit, our services, for example. So how is it? Walk us through. How is it? So somebody phones or somebody gets recommended to you. You have an initial consultation or chat with them, and what happens?
Yes, I would normally call them back to get the key details. So by key details, I'm meaning that when did the accident happen? Which doctors did they see? Which hospital did they attend? And then in terms of I would ask them for a brief timeline of events at that point as well. So then you can sort of make a rough witness statement as such. And once you've got all that information, you would then try to get the medical records. That's the first port of call, to contact their GP, which will probably have details of a referral to a hospital, or if they've just gone straight to the hospital, contact the hospital as well. And it's recalling the medical records. That's the first thing you need to do.
Right. Do they pay for that, or is there no payment? Is it free? Have you ever experienced, for example, like GPs not cooperative because somehow it's them that's going to be on the spot,
It's actually free.
Well, what's really happening in the real world,
Yeah, it is free to get your medical
it's free.
records.
It's free.
Previously,
Sometimes they do charge. Some of them do charge like £25. Yeah. It's not. Yeah.
Okay, so you get the medical records. You studied it, and then you if say for example it's at least there's a chance it's 51%. Then what happens next? You call them. Hey, we're on, and then you give them the CFA straight away, or you explain to them the CFA.
Yeah.
So what happens? What happens?
Not straight away. What you'd be looking for, you know that the injuries are say they said they had depression or something along those lines, and that was a direct cause of the accident. Well, if you went back into the medical records and you saw, well, actually this patient suffered from depression every year for 10 years, well, that would be a bit of a conflict if you're saying it directly was caused by the accident. So, presumably if the medical records are on the client's side, and that is consistent with the accident, then you would be able to proceed, and you would then sort of discuss the CFA agreement with them.
All right. Okay. By assessing all of these things, if it's not fairly recent, if it's something that's been going on for many years, for example, like you said, you cannot correlate it as something that has happened directly imputable to that particular injury, right?
Yeah.
So you have to limit it within what's, you couldn't say that although you're suffering from something for the many years, you cannot have it added on so that you will have a higher JSB rating in terms of charges.
Very good.
You cannot say that, right? So, okay, so you assess it. So what happens? You go to, you ask them now, hey, we're going to be representing you. Here's a CFA. Here's a form. How do you call it again? You call it the causation confirmation. How's that again?
Causation, yeah.
Causation confirmation agreement.
Conditional fee.
Conditional. Conditional.
That can do as well. Confirmation. That would be good.
Okay. Because I'm trying to get to understand all of these things. That's term. So
good idea.
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes. It said causation. Causation. Okay. Causation. Anyway, right. So, so you tell them now about the CFA, and then CFA. Normally, how long does it take? For example, is it like more or less a paper thing, or do they have to stand before a judge, or be presented before a judge? You probably, I don't know. Is it how is it how is the process actually? So they sign the CFA agreement, no win no fee, which states that you don't get more than 25%, which is a cap. So what happens? It's a do the doctors have lawyers as well? Like the NHS, do they have lawyers as well?
Well, they'll have a legal
Solicitors?
team that will deal with these sorts of matters. And so the doctors themselves won't deal with the claim directly, and they will pass that on to their assigned legal team.
Is there like a centralized legal on the NHS, for example? Every part of the UK would have probably offices wherein people by solicitors or legal teams handling this particular cases. So are there cases, for example, wherein you are facing the same people, more or less? Have you had that experience? Ikaw, you, Attorney DANNA. Oh, yeah.
What I would say, and Charlene might give her own view, knowing that she's worked for the other side, a medical defense shield. What tends to happen is they have what we call an NHS litigation authority. So you're right about a centralized agency or department that deals with the potential medical negligence claims, and then depending on how they, how probably they would classify you, at times you could get passed on to the lawyers pretty quickly. And they use the same lawyers, they use the same firm, NHS. So yes, we, not necessarily the same people, but the same department and potentially the same solicitor's firm. I don't know about Charlene. Charlene, maybe you could share to us, your experience defending before.
So with the
when you say defending, you are more how do you call this, Attorney DANNA? You're more of the claimants, right? The litigation.
Yes, for claimants. At the moment, solicitors, we act most, if not purely for claimants. We've never been instructed by an NHS, because NHS, most of these cases, how it works is that, as Charlene said, you have to, you pretty much raise your issue with the NHS, the trust, or the doctor's insurers, isn't it, Charlene?
Yeah.
All right. So Charlene has been at the other side of the fence, so to speak. So you, you attorney, have been with the claimants, and she has been. So it's okay. So they also hire solicitors. The NHS, they don't have their own. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they have their own legal team, but they hire specific.
Okay. So they okay.
They have experts as well. They have experts when it gets to a certain stage. They would like to push it out to a separate, probably for just a second pair of eyes to just give that independence, maybe. I don't know how they do their decision making, but Charlene may be able to give us a more perspective, a wider perspective about that, because you're part of, is it a semi-insurance, Charlene? Was it insurance, something like that, wasn't it?
So what it was is that the GP or clinician would, it's like a membership, so they would sign up to having a legal team that they could go to if they run into any conduct issues, if they got into any sorts of trouble like that. And essentially they would be up against the GMC. So that's who regulates their work and making sure that everything is done correctly. So quite often what happens is that the GPs, the hospitals themselves would refer them to the GMC if they've made a big breach of policy and of the GMC's policies.
Okay, we got a couple of questions here. First question.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. Is it better to pursue a claim for medical negligence sooner rather than later?
Absolutely, I would say.
Yes.
As soon as you are aware that something has gone wrong, I would advise people to put the claim in sooner rather than later, because you've got a 3-year limitation period that you need to bring the claim in.
Okay, we have a very important second question. Will the patient's treatment be affected when they claim for medical negligence?
Well, it can depend. So you may be able to get assistance with that, and that's what I meant by potentially having an interim payment. So that would be, if there's enough evidence, it would be that you could potentially claim a payment that would assist in the treatment. So you might be able to claim private, say, physiotherapy or a different type of care that could assist in the rehabilitation of the actual claimant.
So they shouldn't be worried, because if it's rehabilitation, that is a must, right? Yeah, it is a must.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We talk about competencies. We talk about the Bolam case. So we're talking about doctors. Okay. What's happening? My impression now is, with this thing, with this discussion that we're having, my impression is a doctor or a consultant, a doctor, whoever they are, medical practitioners, can make negligences, can be remiss with some, with their jobs, but it seems like we are claiming just damages, for example, payment from the NHS, on the mistakes made by these medical practitioners. Are there cases? Okay, you're claiming actually for for medical negligence claims. Okay, but are there cases when, because the claim has been, the damage has been so severe that it would necessitate, or perhaps call for perhaps that particular doctor or whoever they are be barred? I don't know if it's in law disbarred, but is it also a word applicable to medical practitioners? Can they be disbarred?
Yeah.
Is there a possibility, because it's so severe?
Charlene will
it
answer
may-
that. Yeah, Charlene.
Yeah.
Yeah, what can happen is sometimes the breach that the doctor has done is so bad that they get what we call erased from the medical list of doctors. So they would not be able to practice. Sometimes that can be indefinitely if it's serious enough. Or it might be that they'll be disbarred for, a period of time, in which case they would need to maintain training, and they would need to show that they have, truly understood what has gone wrong and actually got further training to make sure that didn't happen again.
Well, that's nice to hear. I thought it was just like, okay, hello guys, if you've got if there are any medical negligence, tell us, and then we'll sue them. We'll sue the NHS. They pay, but this guys still continue on. It's like I thought it was just like, there's a fund from the NHS that's allotted to this damages, to these claims for negligence, and then
That's right. Yeah.
these people are just go on with their lives. I mean, go on, practice their professions. So there is also a chance that they can also be out of the list or delisted or whatever you call it, right? So as possible, right, Charlene?
Yeah, so it depends on how serious.
How serious, right? Exactly.
Because, everything needs to be assessed and looked into. And a lot of it will be pending further investigation as well.
All right. So how long does it take, more or less, these claims, for example, from the time that you've spoken to them, you've requested the medical records, So how long does it take? Attorney, how does from the time? Or do they? It depends. Is the answer? Huh?
It really does.
Exactly. We would have to either reach a settlement, sue, or get an extension for the limitation period deadline before the 3rd-year anniversary. So we do need to act quickly. That's the reason why Charlene has noted that the 3-year limitation, and Charlene noted you have to, when you suspect something wrong has happened, then you'd have to raise it very quickly so you can begin your investigation, or your legal team can begin their investigation. However, the actual towing and throwing, sending a letter before claim, getting the responses, getting an expert, it does take a long time. And just like road traffic accidents, sometimes, and Charlene will probably give further perspective on this, we have to wait for the prognosis, for the longer term prognosis, our catastrophic injury, when you're talking about being paralyzed, quadriplegic, all those life-changing injuries, both parties would need to really get to the bottom line of what is the final prognosis of this claimant, so we can arrange a care package and a settlement package that is suitable for this particular claimant. But Charlene, what's your experience? We both laugh because this is probably not the quickest area of law in terms of pacing. What's your experience, Charlene?
It can be quite a long process, I will say, because you've got to record all of the medical evidence, and it might be that a patient's actually still going to get treatment, in which case you still need to record those records as well. And so you need to have all the medical evidence there, and then you need to have a report done, and then, you need to make sure the witness statements are done. It's quite a long, lengthy process, and that's why I would urge people that if something has happened and you believe you may have a claim, then put in your claim as soon as you can.
Right. So it may be a lengthy process.
Yes.
I was I was asking you earlier, just to guide us through and how the process is. From the time that you've more or less assessed that it's 51% to the signing of the CFA and so on and so forth. Are this done? Are all negligence cases? Did they all go to court, or are these things just written? Just toing and froing, as to and fro from that Attorney DANNA was saying. Do all of these cases, the medical negligence cases, do they go to court?
We try not to get things too court, and in my experience, I mean, Dana's been doing this for longer than I have, but not many of mine have reached the court stage that I've worked on. So I think more likely than not, they don't get that far quite often.
Is it because there's a compromise? So more or less, probably the other side would like, hey, let's, how do you call this? How do you call that already? Let's come to have a compromise.
An agreement.
An agreement, a compromise agreement. And what a compromise would mean that they're trying to pay a bit less, right? Is that how it is? No, not really. Not really.
I think as well.
And litigation risk, depends on your evidence. If your evidence is not so perfect, they will say, well, we don't believe your doctor has actually given proper consideration to this and that, and we've got another doctor who says this and that. So you've got what we call litigation risk. Because at the end of the day, if you've got two different experts saying two different things, then this is what we call in law, you've got a judge who's a non-expert, who's not a legal practitioner, who's not a medical practitioner, who's going to pick from one of those two experts, and it just becomes a beauty pageant of experts who that judge likes better. So there is a litigation risk. So that's the reason why most cases do settle, because to buy out that risk. Who does the judge like better, expert A or expert B? So you don't really want to toss that coin at the end of the day. Can't hear you, sir.
Yeah, when an employee, sorry, okay. When an employee, for example, or a government, whoever, anybody at work, for example, they make a mistake. Sometimes they're given preventive suspensions so as not to influence, interfere, or whatever. with this medical negligence cases, what happens to doctors? You know, when you bring cases to them against nurses and doctors, do they continue on working, or are they given preventive suspension, or what's the situation in the field? Well, you know, the real world.
It depends on each trust, because actually, with the NHS trust, each trust has a different policy. So it really would be down to that individual trust policy. Some of them may say they will, you know, suspend the person until they've got further information, and some will say, you know, that they may continue on for a little bit, but when more information comes to light, they then may act at that point.
Well, I guess now let's get to know you. Okay, so we have an understanding now of medical negligence. So how long have you been? You studied law, right, Charlene? So we're just curious, how did you get into it, and why did you choose it as your vocation, as your, you know?
I had a work experience in year 10 with a lady called Joanna Katz, and I believe she's now a QC now. And she just really inspired me to do law. I really enjoyed my work experience with her.
How old were you then? 12, 11?
Yeah, how old are
Grade
you?
10, grade 10 is, how old is grade 10?
So when
15.
you're 10.
Around 15.
Oh,
So she's now, she's 15, right? 15? Was it 15, Shirley?
Around that
Grade 10.
age, I think so.
All right, okay. So grade 10, she's a QC now. QC, right? You said?
This lady is,
But
yeah.
back then, she was just a solicitor.
So she was actually a barrister. She was a barrister.
Ah, she was a barrister then. Okay, she was a barrister. And how did you get to be there in her office, or probably shadow her or observe her?
Yeah.
How did
it's
it come
my
about?
school.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
your
my
school.
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 They did work experience at school. You could pick which one you wanted to do. So.
All right. So where are you actually based? Where is it you're talking about? Is it in London? Is it in someplace else?
Yeah, my school's in London. Yeah.
Okay. We have I don't know if there's a comment or a question. Okay.
Look,
Bernadette Bislig, go ahead please. Pao, direct, no? Pakipasok natin. Can we just put this in? Sige. Ayan. All right. Jessica, this might be a comment. Doctors or any professionals who are proven incompetent and who was negligent, they should be dismissed and should be struck. But parang this is what her
yeah,
wish.
it's a comment. Yeah.
Comment. Legal
there it is.
procedure always takes a while. Look at Prince Andrew.
Yeah.
What about Prince Andrew?
I mean, I think Prince Andrew is in a bit of a legal hold at the moment.
This is a medical negligence. How does it tie up? Bernadette, how does it tie into Prince Andrew? No,
Prince
I know
Andrew,
Prince
yeah.
Andrew because he has a
Bernadette.
case, right, with this girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah, I know. Okay, kilala ko yan. Direct. I know him.
Yeah.
I know him. No. May kaso, he has a case wherein he abused a teenager. Well, allegedly abused a teenager.
Yes.
No? Oh, okay. All right. Well, okay. Well, so that was it. That was the start of it, and you got inspired. Is there any lawyer in the family, a solicitor in the family, or are you the first?
No, I am the first. So basically, it was purely on the barrister.
Right. Your name it's perfect for a barrister.
It's my husband's name. But yeah.
Your husband's name. What was your surname when you were single?
Beckford. Beckford.
Huh? Sorry.
Beckford.
Beckford.
Peckford.
Yeah.
Peckford.
Petford. P-E-T and then F-O-R-D. P-E-T. Correct, right?
Beckford.
T-E-C. Tango Echo Charlie.
Beckford.
Pickford. Peckford.
Yeah.
Peckford. P-E-C-K. P-E-C-K-F-O-R-D. All right. So you're married to Mr. Lord.
Yes.
All right.
Justice Lord. Mr. Justice Lord.
Is there a Justice Lord? You love your name. Do you love your name now? It sounds better than
I do
cuter
love
than Charlene Peckford. Okay, so this is Charlene Lord. Mrs. Lord, how are you? Okay, so But do you sing? By the way, do you sing, Shirley? Because it also is good for a singer's name, Charlene Lord. Ladies and
Oh no, I
gentlemen.
definitely don't sing.
Do you sing? Do you sing?
No, not at all.
No.
Sadly.
All right. So 10th grade, you got inspired, and so when did you start taking up law? Was it during your university days?
Yeah, so University of Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire.
Yeah, same like DANNA.
Oh,
Went to the same university. Yeah.
I've got a friend who's studying there or just finished, I think, media studies or something. So, okay. And then, so how long have you been in the legal profession now, practicing?
Yeah,
so after graduation, what happened to you?
Yeah, after graduation, I started out as a legal receptionist in a criminal law firm in London, and that was really interesting. It was very criminal family, prison law, and motor offences. So it was a mixed bag, and I was right at the front of the house.
So you started out as a receptionist in a criminal law firm.
Yep.
So how long were you there as a receptionist, and what followed then next?
Yeah, so it was a fixed term contract, just at the back end of the recession in 2008. Somewhere.
So you had that for about a year or two?
Yeah, a
and
year,
then,
yeah.
So we're trying to follow the career of Charlene. So from then, what happened?
Yeah, so we moved to St Albans, which is where I started at a firm there. It was PI, it was a PI firm, so personal injury. And so that's where it first all began, negligence, PI work.
What, you were a receptionist, were you already Mrs. Lord? Because you mentioned we moved. I don't know if you moved with your family or dad and your mom, or you moved with your husband.
No, sorry, with my husband. So basically,
your husband. All right.
Yes. Yeah.
So you were already Mrs. Lord when you were working as a receptionist.
I got married in 2010. I'm trying to follow the timeline now.
2010. Oh, that's 11 years ago. Wow. Happy. What's one decade?
Yeah,
What's one decade?
We celebrated
11.
10 years, isn't it?
10 years. Oh, so 11th year.
Yeah, 10 years.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations. Well, at least 11 years. To go through 11 years, at least another year, so you've got 12 years. You got a dozen years. Well, you got kids, by the way. Have you got kids, Mrs. Lord?
Yes, I got.
You got kids. How many kids do you have, Charlene?
Three.
You got 3. All right. Wow. Okay. All right. So
Very cute.
You chose this medical negligence. Medical negligence thing. In law, for example, or even medicine, you choose if you want to be into pediatrics or oncology or whatever. You choose a field you specialize in. So is this the thing that you specialize in right now? Medical negligence cases. All right. Okay. So you've been with DB solicitors for a year and a bit, right?
That's right. Yes.
A little over a year. Okay, wow, okay. So how do you find DANNA as a workmate?
That's amazing.
Huh?
It's learning from the best, literally.
She's the best.
She is.
Wow, she's the best.
Very
All right,
kind.
okay. Do you right? Okay. Do you see her sometimes trying to how do you call nick? It's a nick. Is that nick when you nick some candies or bars in the food? I think you have this. You have this food bar in the middle of the office.
We do have a fruit bar. We literally have
how do you call
fruit
a fruit bar? How do you call it? Fruit bar?
A food bar.
A food bar, yeah. And then she and you notice her passing by every now and then, pretending to go to, but she would just nick one of those whatever. You don't call it candies, right? Sweets or anything like that. Sweets,
we've always got something going cooking.
So what's the most challenging experience so far in your legal life? I'm not asking about the love life or the married life. It's more of your legal life. So how is it so far? What's the most challenging? Is it something like kids who are watching us? We have a lot of Filipino parents watching us with their kids, and perhaps you might be like QC Charlene Lord to them eventually, because you might inspire them. Would it be something that's you can inspire some kids out there? Probably getting into the profession.
Definitely. I feel I'm very passionate about clinical negligence and PI. It's very interesting. You never have a boring day, and I really do mean that. The cases are extremely interesting. They're challenging at times, but that's part of the interest as well. No 2 days are the same. Some challenging points can be in terms of just, if you've got a heavy case on where you're going to have to look through the medical records, and they might have visited 5 or 6 different hospitals or GPs, and it's just, making sure that you don't miss anything, or making sure that you assess everything. But I would really recommend getting into it. I really would. I think it's very interesting. So.
All right. So kids, young people, you're watching out there. Well, DANNA is also one example, because looking at DANNA, you will think, is DANNA like she's a freshman student and university student, because she looks very young, right? So yeah, you guys are inspiration. DANNA is an inspiration to, I think, one of our friends. I don't know if Edgar Dua, his daughter, is going to be eventually go into that law career, But you would be inspirations to our the people out there. So one last question. What would it be breaking confidentiality? It's just probably it can be generic now. What was the worst cases that people that you, from your experience, what's the worst claim that you've ever experienced? You don't have to name names, of course, but what condition, what was it? And is there also a trivial claim? Would there be a trivial, something probably a very simple claim? Could you say something simple or no? Well, what's the worst so far that you've how do you call it, represented, experienced, handled?
I think it's hard to say the absolute worst, but I will say the ones that involve fatalities are, very, they're the tricky ones. And that there's going to be a lot of emotion involved in them because, somebody has lost somebody. So they're the most challenging ones for me in terms of, that whatever happens, you're not going to get that person back or that child back. So they're the more difficult ones, I think.
All right. Okay. Yes. Death, of course. You cannot beat that. Missing a father, a husband, a son, a spouse, so yeah, well, thank you very much, Mrs. Lord.
Thank you.
What if your husband becomes a lord, then you'll be called Lord, right? Double Lord. What's the name of your husband? Your hubby?
Peter.
Peter. Lord Peter. Lord. Imagine. Lord. You have Lord. When you see movies, your lordship, your lordship. So
your lordship.
Nice. Your lordship, yes. I think even in courts they say your lordship.
Correct. Yes, that's right.
Your
And Court of Appeal. Court of Appeal, your lordship.
So imagine we have, I'm SONNY LARAGAN. I have a medical negligence case, and I'm being represented by Charlene Lord, Your Honor. My Lord.
My Lord.
That's nice. That's good, no? My Charlene Lord. It's a wonderful surname, and I'm sure you love it. Right? You do. I love it too. It sounds good. Charlene Lord. So, well, Charlene.
Welcome, Mrs. Lord. Thank you for gracing us with your presence, Mrs. Lord.
Would like to acknowledge the presence of Lord Peter and Charlene Lord. To fertilize. Because sometimes when people are acknowledged. Right. Yes, my Alex. Yes, my Alex is contemplating becoming a lawyer because of attorney DQ. She even wants to have a job experience at DBS.
Yes, please come here. Come here and get the job experience.
Look at this.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Lord is one example of an inspiration when she was in grade 10. Right? Correct? Grade 10.
That's correct.
And she was exactly 15 years old then. And that was her inspiration. Imagine the barrister who inspired her is now a QC. What does QC, by the way, stand for? In the Philippines, it stands for Quezon City. What is this?
It's Queen's Counsel.
Queen's Counsel.
It's a level, it's a level of seniority. Yeah,
Look,
very,
it's
very
something
senior.
that we learned. Queen's Counsel. Oh, right, Queen's Counsel.
Daming in the language.
All right. Well, fantastic. So,
Brilliant.
guys, if you need
Thank
anything,
you.
ito si tag dito. Kung meron kayong mga medical negligence, si Charlene Lord, at saka of course si Attorney Dana Quinto. Ganda to, represented kayo. Sorry, I'm talking in Greek, Charlene. I'm just telling them that, if they have they know of any medical negligence cases, be it for them or somebody that they know of, who's who's a victim of this. Can we call it a victim or experience this? Then here are the two of you, Mrs. Lord and of course Attorney Dana Quinto, as who can help, right? Guide you. All you have to do is show your
The commoner, Dana Quinto. The commoner.
Lord. That's, si Director, pwedeng Lord Director Pao, no? Okay, Lord Pao. Hindi, lady pala, lady. What's a lady? A lady. What's the wife of a lord? What do we call it? The wife of a lord? Lady.
Lady.
Sir,
It is a lady.
Sir Peter Lord and Lady Charlene Lord. That will be it. So if it's Lord Peter Lord, Lady Charlene Lord. So it's lady. All right, lady. Okay, wow, that's good. Sounds nice. Okay, well, Charlene, thank you very much. You might want to greet any friends of yours who are out there probably watching you. Or any messages, or you want to greet somebody. Go right ahead, please. Before we let you go, yes.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been really good. So please do get in contact if you have any other questions or anything, and I'll be happy to help.
Okay, so if in case we look for the Lord again, and ask Attorney Dana, can we have Charlene, the Lord,
Yes, you
again
have to
on the
bow.
show?
You
Yes,
have to
yeah.
curtsy first before you can see her.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Well, fantastic. You made our night wonderful, informative, and wonderful. Charlene. So we want to thank you. So thank you very much. Maraming salamat. More power to you.
Great.
And to your children. You got 3 kids. How old is the eldest?
Yes. So eldest is 9.
9. Okay.
9.
And-
Yeah.
And
7.
the youngest? 7.
Yeah, and 4.
4.
And 4.
9,
Yeah.
7, and 4.
That's good.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. There's a nice gap,
Very
huh? 2 years and 3
Yeah.
years. Is there gonna
Yeah.
another one coming in the future?
No, very
No,
happy.
Are you happy with the 3 of them? Are they asking for a 4th, like company? No, so they're just
No,
3 of them.
no.
Are they all boys, all girls? A combination of boys and girls?
Girl, boy, and girl.
Girl, boy, and girl. All right. Okay. Well, fantastic. Thank you very much, Charlene, Mrs. Lord. Thank you very much for being a part of tonight's show, and we enjoyed it with the information you gave us on all of this JSB, Bolam case, CFA, and all of these things that I've come across tonight. Quantum, very informative. So thank you very much. Maraming salamat sa iyo. Good night, ha? Maraming salamat.
Bye.
Ayan, bye-bye. Ayan, mga kaibigan, si Charlene Lord. Ayan, ganda na pala ng pangalan niya, Charlene Lord, attorney, ha. Kita mo naman. Oy, nawala si attorney, wala yung boses ni attorney. Wala siyang hello, attorney, Dana. Yes. Yeah, okay, go. As you were saying, as you were saying, nawala ka. Akala ko may sinasabi ka.
Hindi ka nag-curtsy, hindi ka nag-bow.
Oh, yeah, bow, yes. So, Charlene Lord, yes. Yeah, we love her. We love her. It's nice.
No, she's very good. She's very
good.
good.
Oh, yeah, very good. Yes.
I'm very proud of her.
She has a pretty well-rounded experience. Why? Because she's on both sides.
Definitely.
You know,
Absolutely.
You are for the complainant, litigant. She is defending the other side. So it's it's nice. Both sides. So
That's right.
I guess DV solicitors, did a good job, of headhunting or having Charlene a part of you. And also because of the surname, it also adds glamour to your office. So DV solicitors has a lord with them.
That's right.
So wonderful. Okay. Meron tayong mga pagbati, attorney, mga panghuli na para sige pahabol na natin. Teka na po. Rafa, Rapa-rapa pa. Edgardo pala. Sige, Edgardo.
Edgardo Cagacian, good evening, Mr. Laragan, Attorney Donna Quinto. Happy Tuesday to all. Stay safe to all due to flu season again. And Edgardo's still working from home, so hindi siya reporting from the northern line. Edgardo is reporting from home.
Yes.
Paunahing pangdangal.
Hindi pwede.
Guest of honor.
Hindi, guest of honor yun pero guest co-host lang namin si Charlene Lord, no? Pwede rin ba? Panahon pandangal. Parang may party tayo. Okay. Good. Can you show Charlene, direct show Charlene, she has this beautiful smile. Oh, look at the beautiful smile. Oh, you look at that. Huh? Oh, that's, we call it like a toothpaste smile, a close-up smile. All right. Ayan, okay. All right, so tuloy natin mga pagbati, attorney. Sino po ba ito? TJ Reyes.
Si TJ Reyes, Perez rather.
Perez,
Happy Attorney Donna, Charlene, and Sir Sonny, and also to amazing Direct Pao at the backstage. Mabuhay
Yes,
po kayo.
TJ
Perez din.
Okay, yep.
Salamat.
Well, mabuhay, ha? Good, TJ. Yes.
Alejo Mark. Yes. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Greetings from Philippines. Mabuhay ka, Alejo. Magandang umaga dyan. Magandang umaga.
Ano ito si Ray Malignas? Ano itong anytime yata niya?
Anytime.
Ayan.
Anytime.
Maano yan, Ray Matignas. Okay, thank you, Ray, ha? Maraming ano, ha? There's a nice kind words from Edgar. Ayan.
Yes.
Basa, attorney.
This is for Charlene. This is from Edgar Duay. Thank you, Charlene, for your graciousness and sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you, Charlene.
Pakita mo yung smile ni attorney. So Edgar saying thank you for your thanking you, Charlene. Okay, next natin. Sige, lipat natin. Sige, paano natin?
Indeed, very informative and productive night with Mrs. Charlene Lord and of course Sir Sonny and Attorney Dana. Have learned many things tonight. Thank you, Mom Carsola.
Yes,
there you are. Credit to
you.
Charlene.
Yeah, we learned a lot from Charlene. Yeah, so imagine you have Mrs. Lord on the show tonight. It's a beautiful night. Yeah, she made us. It made us happy tonight. You know, as I know.
You made us happy.
Yeah, so we're gonna curtsy. Mrs. Lord. Yes. And, yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So people natutuwa kayo. You're kind of glad and happy. Now we have Charlene Lord tonight. No. You're thanking her for her graciousness and sharing the knowledge with us. So Charlene, thank you very much. Mabuhay ka. Mabuhay means long live. Long live to you. Long live. Okay.
Long live.
I don't know if you've taught her some Tagalog words, attorney.
I tried. You can say. How do you say? Maraming salamat is thank you, and
Maraming salamat.
Kamusta is hello, and mabuhay is long live. So. All you need to survive in the Philippines.
Just a few words, yes.
Yeah.
Lady
and
Grace.
Kain tayo, most especially.
Kain tayo, let's eat. Come.
Let's eat. Let's eat.
Hello, Lady Grace Legaspi.
Oh, Lady Grace. Meron tayong Lady
so
Grace.
we have a Lord Lady. So imagine because of you, all of these ladies are now coming out. You know?
Hello, yes.
Okay, wow. Thank you very much, Lady Grace Legaspi Damilas. Thank you very much for greeting us. Hello also. Okay, well, I guess it's time for us to say goodbye. Magpaalam na tayo, no? Attorney, sige, paalam ka na muna. But how do they contact you? If, for example, mga negligence, medical negligence cases, how do they contact you? Or, baka gusto kong batiin, bahala ka na.
If you want to have a chat, or if you want to contact myself or Mrs. Lord, you can email me at d.quinto@dbsolicitors.com or call me at 01234225188. Again, that's d.quinto@dbsolicitors.com or 01234225188. Sa lahat-lahat po ng ating mga kababayan sa apat na sulok ng mundo na tumatangkilik sa programang ito. Maraming salamat po. At para kay Charlene, maraming salamat, Charlene, for sharing your thoughts and your knowledge tonight. To everyone, stay safe. Sa ika nga ni Edgardo, it's flu season again, so antabay. And Mr. Laragan and Direk Pao, thank you so much as always sa inyong setup, sa pag-setup at sa pag-organize ng ating legal advice corner. You're very, very much appreciated. We don't always say it enough, I think. So we love you as well. We love you both.
Attorney, you're the
Blush
reason
ka
why.
ata?
Attorney, you're the reason why we are here. Siyempre, ikaw nagbibigay ng information. We wouldn't know all of this information. So, yeah, we want to thank you as well. Maraming salamat for keeping our kababayan's company. This is not just having a chat. This is also a chat with the information, no, about the laws dito sa ano, no. And you guys are empowered because last week we talked about yung injury and ano yung injury last week? Road traffic accidents, injuries, no. Ayan, kung ano dapat gawin, no. This week we have Mrs. Lord with us who talked about diba? We talked about medical negligence cases, what to do. Now you get an understanding, no? And it's pretty nice because we have somebody who is on both sides, like I said, no?
Exactly.
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 Who is now, who's experienced defending the other side, who's working on the other side, and now working on you guys if you have some claims, no?
That's right.
So, malaking bagay yan. And of course, syempre, maraming salamat, Attorney. We look forward not only because of the legal things that you let us know, but also your things about, giving us added knowledge and having us a peek into your adventures, no? The cooking adventures, the climbing adventures, and all the other adventures that you do. And somehow that's inspiring kasi sa ating mga kababayan, di ba? Parang wow, okay pala si Attorney. Hindi ko kaya yun, martial arts, umaakyat ng ng bundok, nagba-marathon. I couldn't even run siguro probably 5 minutes of straight running. Pero you're marvelous. That's something that we can see, nakikita ng ating mga kababayan. And those who are watching. So, on behalf, magpapasalamat na ako, on behalf of you, Attorney DANNA Quinto of DV Solicitors, on behalf of Mrs. Lord, Charlene Lord, okay, Mrs. Lord, and of course our director Paula Perez. It's Sunny here. Ito po sa Sunny LARAGAN nagsasabing thank you very much sa inyong walang sawang pagsubaybay dito sa Legal Advice Corner every Tuesday night. Let's do it again next week, next Tuesday. So till then, from us, kayo, ingat-ingat, take care, God bless, and stay safe and healthy. Bye. Good night.
Sa World Remit, naiintindihan namin ang iyong paglalakbay. Na minsan, kailangan lumayo upang makamit ang tagumpay. With ways to save more, when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.